Hello, and thank you for joining us for another one of our webinar series here at ETRAGE. Today we'll be covering Windchill administration basics. Uh, we'll start off with myself, a few introductory slides and comments, and we'll follow by Robert Sturhan, one of our technical leads. Uh, we'd love to get questions from our attendees. If you could send those in through the Q&A interface on the webinar screen, we'll answer those if we see them and if we have time. If not, we'll certainly follow up with you and deliver the answer as best we can, as quickly as we can. A brief agenda. I'll cover a little bit about ETRAGE, what we do, what today's topic consists of, then hand things off to the live presentation. Myself, Scott Rich, I'm our Director of Sales here at ETRAGE. I've been in the PTC space for the last 8 years. I focus on helping customers identify where and how they can improve their PLM processes, especially as it relates to manufacturing. Our presenter today, Robert Sturhan, has been in the PTC Windchill space for more than 25 years, certified instructor, does a great deal of custom modifications to Windchill to meet customer requirements and demands. Is an all-around great guy. A little bit about ETRAGE. We've been around since 2001, so more than 20 years of experience in this space as a PTC development partner. Our mission is to help customers integrate their enterprise systems, migrate data between different systems, find ways to automate processes, and automate the flow of data within operations, and make sure that the PLM data is extended across the enterprise, not just held in engineering. We hold ourselves to a high standard when it comes to meeting customer demands. It requires us to pay close attention to what customers tell us to make sure our custom services are delivered on time and accurately. A little bit about our customers, usually people in the design and manufacturing space, but any size of company, anyone that needs to share data, automate processes, integrate across different systems, especially if you need to find a way to bridge the gap between disparate systems. Anyone who needs to find ways to connect multiple databases, especially if you have legacy systems that you can't eliminate. A little bit about our products and offerings. We specialize in a number of our own plugins for Windchill, such as the ETRAGE Viewer, our document management system, the plot service for Windchill, which is essentially a publisher to deliver content wherever you need it to go, our bulk loader for when you need to merge systems or bring data into Windchill, and the ERP integrations. On the services side, we do all things relating to Windchill, upgrades, custom work, implementation of new modules, new deployments. Relating to today's presentation, Windchill administration, a number of our customers have us provide remote support for them and fill this role. We like to provide training, another one of our areas of specialty, because there are a lot of customers that need to find a way to manage Windchill on their own. And of course, we also do a great deal of cloud hosting, which will typically include the sorts of things you'll see today, that remote support of Windchill. A little bit about our training. We offer private classes, including system business administration of Windchill and system administration of Windchill. We offer these both private, public, and remote. Sometimes customers need us to come in and do custom mentoring. Show us what you are doing, and we walk you through things you need to do to improve your processes on site. And we also offer a subscription-based e-learning offering, which is really great for follow-up training and reinforcement, where you can actually insert your own models into the e-learning curriculum. Now, on to today's topic, Windchill administration basics. Windchill, in case anybody is not very familiar with it, it is a web-based product lifecycle management system developed by PTC. Windchill is intended to serve as that single source of truth. It's going to be the backbone to your company-wide digital thread. It's anyone in the design space or manufacturing space needs to rely on some digital single source of truth. Windchill excels in this area. It will let companies save time, save costs, shorten time to market through how you can collaborate, improve security, improve quality, process automation, elimination of redundant steps, and redundant systems. And this will be my last slide before I hand things off to Mr. Sirhan. This is our agenda today. We may not get through all of this in the next 30, 40 minutes. We hope that we do. By all means, send in questions. Begin through that Q&A tab on the screen. And if we run out of time, we'll revisit this topic. We'll reschedule it quickly and have a Windchill administration part 2 scheduled. And we'd love to hear back from you. Tell us what future content, either related to this presentation or anything in the greater PTC and ETRAGE space. We'd love to get your feedback. With that, I'll hand things off to Robert Sirhan.
Hello, everyone. Hopefully everybody can see my screen. So I'm going to start this presentation with talking about the Windchill status. So this whole presentation focuses on sort of system slash business administration. And we're going to explore some tools that help you keep up with your Windchill maintenance. And that could be around memory allocations. It also will revolve around queue entries or queue management, your publishing, your Windchill publishing queues, your vault, some reports that you can run, definitely Windchill log files, message server, background server logs files. We'll talk also about some of the verbosities that you could control or set up to give you more information about whatever particular issue that you're encountering or your end users are encountering. I try to keep with using or to get all this information from the Windchill environment. I would say about 85% of the presentation focuses on the tools available within the web within the web browser. A lot of times I encounter administrators that really don't have access to the Windchill server. So this is really a good way to get a lot of information that without having to actually get a remote desktop access to the Windchill server. So we'll start with the server status. The server status is just a window that tells you the current active users at the top, and then it just gives you like deadlock, how long the service has been up. It's recommended always like maybe every couple of weeks to shut down Windchill services and restart them without clearing the cache, assuming there are no issues. So it's always a good idea to do so. If the system is deadlocked, if users come in and say, hey, your Windchill pages are not responding, you want to jump on this page right away to see if there's a deadlock, and this whole page will go red on you to let you know the case. So at least you would know it's not the server, it's the client's machine, something going on there. Additionally, what you want to do is keep track of the available memory. So in my case here, I have 50%, which is plenty of available memory in the system. This page doesn't really keep track. It doesn't log anything per se. It's not a tool to diagnose issues. When it comes to hardware, as you can see, it just focuses on memory, swap memory, physical memory, heap memory assigned to the Windchill method server and background server. If you really want to, if you're really having an issue, maybe a performance issue, of course, the bottleneck extends just random access memory. It would have to include CPU status, I/O, networking, all these type of things. If this is the case, you definitely want to resort to running the performance monitor, which is a Microsoft server functionality. And maybe I'll show you how to initiate that. There's tons and tons of tips and how to set that up so it actually can record data for you to analyze and determine, where is the bottleneck. And based on the these analysis, you can determine if to allocate more memory to the virtual environment that Windchill is running on, or increase CPU, whatever the issue would be. More importantly, from this page, aside from the information that are shown here, there's something called the monitoring tool. And the monitoring tool is a tool that allows you to do quite a bit of things. I'll start with sort of the log, the log levels. And if you have an issue going on with whatever action or environment in Windchill, it could be a check-in issue, it could be a higher level like Windchill stopped sending notification, some major issue going on, and maybe you reach out to PTC support and they start asking you for things like, hey, can you turn on verbosities? And they might send you like WT properties options so you could jump on the server and implement those onto your site. I find the this approach is much better because then all you need to do is restart Windchill and everything goes back to normal. Versus if you use the hardcode XConf manager to implement these options through the Windchill shell and through the Windchill site. Some people forget about these, and you have no idea how many times I would visit customers and their log directory in Windchill is gigs and gigs of occupied memory on their hard drive that have absolutely served no purpose, just simply because at one point it turned some verbosity and forgot to turn it on. At least with this, you can do is look it up. So for example, if I'm looking for email queue, I'll get what the verbosity, the actual verbosity is, and then I can make a change to it, and then I can hit the set. And it's that simple. Yeah, if you want to come back and change it and get it back to just errors, and so you could do that, no problem. Make sure you check the method servers. It's going to check the servlet engine by default. Obviously, you can browse. It would be impossible to keep track of each one of these queues mean or these options mean. But in many cases, again, depending on the issue you're having, they'll be specific on which verbosity they want to turn on. And again, in most cases, they would ask you to turn all. Once you have done that, then potentially you could come in here, and this is what I like to do. I would like to go to this log comment, and I'll type in here start of, let's say, since I'm doing something with Q, and just do something like this. And what I'm doing here, I'm inserting this actual comment into the log files, which I'll show you in a minute. And so this idea, when I open the log file, which will be thousands of lines, I can do a quick search for this entry, and I know from here on that would be the log information I'm interested in, debugging whatever, in this case, sending a notification. So I would go trigger something in Windchill to send an email, and I'll come back in here, and I will look up the log files. So here we're going to come to the log file viewer, and they have built-in tools. Make sure you check the WT logs directory. They have tools, if you want to search by word. I don't like to use these. The regular expressions kind of has a funky syntax to it. If you want, what I usually do, I just hit the OK, and I get a list of all the logs. Method server, background, window, any logs that Windchill spits out, they'll be listed in here. You want to watch out for the date, obviously. I mean, today's date, 24/05/01. So that would be the message server log I'm interested in, and or the background, either one, depending on, again, what the action or what the issue is and where Windchill is logging that information. And you simply just click on that, and that would load up that log file. Control find, and just look for email. And you see down here, this is where the comment I entered. So I know at least now if I close this, go trigger an email and come back and open this up, I know to go to this area, to this line, and there I can copy paste and feed that information to the assigned engineer I'm working with the PT support or us, or whoever is helping you out figure the issue out. Very nice. They really do this a lot. And again, as you can see, I'm not even connected to the server at all. I mean, remote desktop to the server. This is strictly from the web environment. Yeah, so that's basically sort of my recommendation when you want to review these log files. And you know, you could, you know, if you don't do regular cleanup in your log files, you could maximize the results or minimize it however you see fit. Okay, so going back to the monitoring tool, and there are other things there that we can do, which is like run window stuff, window utility, and get some Windchill cache statistics. You could go in there and get some more information on each one of what the message server queues are doing and what the message server is viewing. That's basically all I wanted to cover here. Just those items are the most important ones that I use frequently to debug things in Windchill environment. All right, so I'm going to jump topics. I'm going to start talking about Windchill queues. So I'm going to close that and go back to the utilities page under the site and click on the queue management. The queue management is a table that keeps track of all activities scheduled or waiting to be executed or have severe issues with them. So for example, here, my publish queue, if I click the information icon, you see there's a list of completed, they're all successful, no problem. We'll come back later to this and show you how you could create a scheduled task so it cleans up all these completed, successfully completed published jobs. If I come down here onto the email queue, which is right down up here, it should be, there you go, email queue. And you see I have 15 total entries, 2 of which are waiting and 13 are severe. So I come in here, open the information page for that. And we, I mean, obviously, I know what the issue is. I don't have a setup. I have not set up an outgoing SMTP server for this installation of Windchill. So all of these are failing, obviously. What you want to do, definitely keep up with these things. If the issue has been resolved and there's no need for these failed queues to reside in the database, so you want to do some cleanup in here as much as possible. That doesn't mean that you come in here and you say everything that has failed, I got to go and or have total entries or entries, I need to clean it up. It depends on what the queue type is. So again, you might have some queues that are waiting, like promotion request views, queues, pool queues. Those you want to leave alone. Again, we're talking about queues that might have severe failed entries. If you have not kept up with your queue management in Windchill, and you might come in here and you would see thousands of total entries or thousands of severe failed ones, and sometimes this interface falls short. So if you go in there and select all and you hit delete, it might just break. And what you want to do is you want to resort to using the queue manager. To do that, you have to be on the server. So I'll open that up and show you how to deal with that. So you open up, I'm logged into the server now, and from a Windchill shell, run as administrator. What you want to do is run this Windchill command, which is Windchill space wtq manager. And you hit the enter, and this menu comes up. And the first thing you want to do is show the list of all the queues. So just show all queues, number 1. And we are interested, you want to log in as the site admin. And if we scroll up a little bit, our queue is number 45, which is an email queue. So now from this menu, I want to select a queue, which is number 4. So I hit 4, and I'm selecting again email queue number 45. Hit enter, and you'll see here queue, email queue. That's the selected queue. And I'm interested in number 14, deleting entries of selected queue. So 14. Be very careful here. You not want to use number 10, delete queue, for example, or any of them, right? So you want to be careful what you're doing here. Reset failed. So if you fix the issue, for example, you do want all these failed notification to re-execute, resend basically. So you could revive them in here by using the reset failed, or through the interface as well. That's available. In my case, I don't care. I'm going to delete them all. So I hit 14, hit enter, and I'm going to hit 1 for all of them. And it's that simple. I hit 17 to exit. And let's go back to our. And I'm going to refresh this page. And you would notice now the email queue has 0 severe entry. So that's what that utility does. It's much quicker to interface. I mean, I had 14, 15 here. It would have been easier to just do it through this interface. But when you have more like 1,000, then it becomes, this interface struggles to keep up with all these threads. Publishing queues. Publishing queues, these, if you have the publisher set up in Windchill, you hopefully you're aware what that does. It takes your every time your Creo users or your CAD users checking something, there's an entry in this queue that Windchill processes through the publisher worker, and it either completes successfully or fails or whatever happens to it. But it retains that entry in the queue. It doesn't get rid of it automatically. So you could potentially come in here and hit the information, select them all, delete them. But what I typically tell customers is, if we go back to the utilities page, there's a way to do a WVS job scheduler administration session or a scheduled entry. So you come in here, this opens up, call it, let's say we want to call it, cleanup, completed jobs, and put description if you want. The job type is a cleanup job, and we want to delete only successful jobs. And you could schedule this every day. That's fine, no problem. And if I want to start the job right now, I could say immediate. And let's go ahead and schedule it. This must be specified. Frequency. Let's see, on 5. Job frequency every 1 day, let's see. The lead job older than 1 day. All right, so it's scheduled, and the kickoff will tell you it's supposed to click off. It's actually doing it right now. Once, so there you go. And if we give it some time, it will execute this, and we'll should actually say that it's doing it. Yeah, it'll do it eventually, and we'll get rid of these queues for me. So that is important as well. I'm going to get rid of it. I don't want that in because I do want to visit the monitor. On the same topic, the WVS, the publishing setup in your Windchill, as an administrator, org admin, or site admin, you could go to the utilities page of these contacts, and you could open up the WVS. And when you open it up in this from this link, you're going to see a list of all the jobs for all users, not you specifically, the logged in administrator, for all users. And you could, filter out, execute job. You're probably more interested in the failed ones. So you could identify what's going on. Maybe I should have done a failed job, but I've done such a good job setting up my my publisher. I can make it fail for some reason. So yeah, be aware of this, and be aware that these jobs, once you have them, you can resubmit them. So you could, maybe you fix the issue. Maybe it's something to do with your CAD assemblies, or maybe you haven't given it enough time. The assembly is too large. So again, based on what errors you get, when you look up these failed job, you can select on the failed job, and it will give you a lot of details in here. Definitely use the PTC knowledge base to search for these type of codes, or whatever the detailed the error that Windchill's listed in that detailed page down here, or section. Look it up, and there'll be plenty of recommendations on how to debug that. And again, this is an environment that requires a little bit of maintenance. You probably need to look at it on a daily basis, keep up with it. It does deliver a lot of information, but it does require some maintenance. It's not a hands-free kind of environment. Okay, moving on to talking about the Windchill workflow process administration. So the Windchill process, not the template, the process administration. So if you have an environment that's heavy on executing workflows, whether it's ECN related, promotion request, or customized workflows to specific documents, maybe a unique subtype of your WT parts, anything that's been automated, anything that has a workflow attached to it, that keeps up with the business side of the Windchill environment, and to have closer control on your processes. Most likely it's going to be workflow related. This tool is really, really handy. First thing you want to do, and it has a lot of specifics to it, so you could identify the process template name. So you might have a workflow that has a name, and then you can look up, if you're specifically looking for that instances of that template that currently are running and having issues. It could go by object, PBO, primary business object. So here you're selecting the ECN subtype object, the promotion request, or the document, or whatever the primary business object that has the workflow to initiate with it. You could also look it up by the initiator. So you might know that, hey, somebody creates a lot of these objects in Windchill that initiate processes, and so I'm going to look up by that username. Or you could just specify it today. If you're keeping up with the maintenance, you could go by day by day. I usually prefer to use the status, and I usually go, just give me everything that is stalled. That's really what I want to focus on. I mean, there might be a lot of running processes that are running fine. They're just waiting for input. I'm interested in the one that are stalled. Exclude closed processes. Obviously, if a process has been closed, completed, there's no point of you looking at it. Hit the search. And obviously, I have two of them that are problematic. They're both running. So let's see what's going on with each one of these. Starting with the promotion request, so I select, and then it shows me all the nodes. So this is a much faster, quicker feedback on what the workflow looks like. I mean, obviously, you're not going to understand from that list what is that, the logic, how is that workflow, layout is. But we're not interested in that, really. We're interested in the node that is running and causing issues. So it's very obvious to me that it's an expression robot that's running. Well, expression robots should execute and move on. If they're running, that means we're stuck. And that's why the stalled, displayed or found that workflow. All right, what's going on with that expression? So I can select it. Look how cool this is. If I scroll down a little bit down to the bottom of this page, it actually shows me, hey, you have deployed code, and the code had spit out errors. And it says, can't execute bad workflow expression. So I know there's something wrong with this code. So I need to go back now and do diligence and figure out what happened. What was the input that caused that code to fail? So this is very handy, and it allows you really to find out what the issue is. Let's just have another example. Let's go look at this workflow on this document. And it looks like it's executed, and it looked like there's a set state robot that's aborted. Okay, let's take a look what's happened here. And here, there is no code, just a method robot. And it says, oh, so it says the following operation not allowed, check out object, lifecycle state. So the object was left checked out when the assignee to this activity hit the complete task. And the workflow got to this robot and wanted to set the state of this object, but it couldn't because it's checked out. So it aborted that node, and it couldn't finalize the promotion. Couldn't finalize the actual workflow itself. So it's stuck here. All right, what do you do from here? I mean, obviously, this is the max amount of information you can get from here. But again, the beauty of it is that you're navigating between these objects with the least amount of clicks. But really, when you want to get serious about fixing these things, there's links to these objects. So you could potentially come, let's say, for this document, and then you can open up the manager. And yeah, exactly what's going on here is it's stuck here, and then error failed queue. So, okay. So here you can actually restart this if you want to. These type of failures or aborted nodes can be restarted. So you can do that and finalize the workflow. Okay, so that's basically for the process administration. Moving on to talk about the WinDo, WinRU, and then those kind of work in conjunction with each other. Those, unfortunately, there are in the utilities, there's something called, it's called, Windchill Diagnostic Task Scheduler. And here, what you can do, you give it a name, and really what you're looking here, these type of tasks, are window tasks. And you could search here, for example, unreferenced. So, for example, delete all workflow processes that have references to a missing PBO. What does that mean? That means you might have deleted an object in Windchill that currently had a running process, like a workflow in the background. So the Windchill successfully deleted the object, but the process itself is still in the database. So you can run the window to detect those, not delete them, detect them. And at that point, you could use the WinRU, which is the repair utility, and that will have a delete all workflow and not necessarily detect. WinRU are very safe to run. There are no backup or pre-backup or is required. This is just information. I would recommend running it after hours because it does consume a lot of physical resources, more specifically CPU resources, because it is actually sending a lot, depending on what you select. If it's one or two, it's not a big deal. But if you select all of them or mandatory before upgrading from Windchill, this is something that I request for every customer that reaches out to us to help with their upgrade project. For a quote or whatever it is, first thing I ask them is go run a mandatory before upgrading and send us a report, which I'll go through and show you the details of that. So yeah, you can select these, give it a name, and schedule it. The problem with this, I'm having some issues connecting to the database. The database is for some reason not liking the request I'm sending from this web page. But I'll do this on the server, just running the window command and walking and running both of these, the missing PBO and the unreferenced vaulted file check. All right. I just make sure I also run the mandatory before upgrading. All right. So we can close this and we'll minimize the browser and jump back on the server. And really, we're just doing the window. That's the command line. You hit it, and there it is. All these options we're looking at are available in here. Here's your mandatory before Windchill. And if I look, You could search, by the way. So here's mandatory. We want unreferenced vaulted file check. If some of you don't know what that is, we'll talk about it when we talk about vaults. Let's see, we got the detect all overflow. So that's basically it. I hit the run button, and it's going to connect with the database and run. So you might need to authenticate. You're authenticating as the site admin username, and it's going to go in and run these. And it's going to come up with a result page, and you could come in here and click on the results, and it opens up, and then it goes through all of these options that you selected. And you might have failed window tasks. I don't have any, but the task itself failed for some reason, and you want to definitely address it. In many cases, I've run across failed window tasks, and they're really very closely documented in the PTC knowledge base. So you just get some sort of a clear text, or it might be a Java exception or a database exception, and just look it up, and they'll tell you either ignore it, meaning uncheck that you don't need to run that diagnostics option, or fix it through running some query in the database or fixing something in the database. Potential problems. This is what we look for when we looking for upgrades. For example, we definitely want to make sure that we have zero potential problems, unless advised by PTC to ignore. So you might have a list of things in here, and you would click on them just like you would see a report link. There'd be links to these. Same thing here, you see links. And when you open up these links, in many cases, the window will suggest that you run the WinRU, which is a repair utility, and specifically will tell you, hey, go run the WinRU and select to this option and run the WinRU. The WinRU is actually modifying the database. It's actually fixing things. So you want to be careful when you run it. There's no need to do it. It shouldn't be on the list of your maintenance unless there is an issue. You don't think that, hey, I'm just going to run the WinRU every 6 months and select everything and just let it figure it out. Not a good idea. Run the WinRU, and based on the recommendations, proceed to use the repair utility. So what is this saying? Giving us reports. So the couple things I wanted to, I was directly interested in, detect. What was the ones? Something with the database. Missing control, missing reference definition. Detect missing masters. Why didn't it show me the checked out work? Missing detect list of unreferenced file. There we go. And let's look at the text file. So just click on it, and here it tells me a list of the vault folders, and it's saying number of unreferenced file is 15. I have about 2,500, 15 of which are unreferenced. So what is a unreferenced file in the vault? If you're heavy on CAD, if you have a lot of CAD users in your Windchill environment, be aware that every update, take that back, every upload that the CAD user executes from their workspaces, what they're doing in a sense is sending data to the vault. However, the Windchill environment is not keeping track of those files. Your workgroup manager is. Your workgroup manager could have an undo, and so it knows to go get those files and replace them in the workspace. But not necessarily that information is not available outside the workgroup manager for Creo or non-Creo. Okay, so once the file is checked in, that information becomes redundant. It's there. There's a new version now that is in the database, and the system is focused on that version. So all these reference files have really no use. You can't get to them through the interface. There's no point of having them. And therefore, that's why we have a special window option to look them up and get rid of them. Now, how do you get rid of them? You could go through the vault, which I'll show you in a minute. Or you could look up on the knowledge base. There's actually a WT properties that in many cases now I see it's automatically set up with the newest 12.2 release of Windchill. By the way, I'm running Windchill version 12.1 here. Or you could resort to that WT property option and set it up in your site configuration file. All right, so that's this for this guy. Let's take a look, since we're talking about this, where are these? And to do this, let me just navigate to the vault and I'll show you. So here's my Windchill master vault. And you would see here there's unreferenced file. It's empty right now, but once I execute the remove unreferenced file, the system will move those unreferenced files and put them in here. I don't like this. I mean, the whole idea of removing those files so I can free up space. So I typically tell the system, just simply get rid of them. Just simply delete them. I mean, yeah, I recommend that you have a good backup, in case something mysterious takes place. Any sort of administrative actions that you take that removes things, whether it's the database or the vault, it's highly recommended that you have a backup just in case something goes south. All right, so that's this. How to take care of these reference files? So you could do them through the interface. Before I move on to the reference file, where are these files located? So it's very obvious. Results, and they're telling you this is the path where all that information is stored. So if I come in here, if I go to my Windchill library, I look at window logs, and we're looking for today's, and you can see here. So even if I exit this and I come in here, you should look in here, you see window, and that gives me the same page I was looking at just a second ago. So even if you close that interface, the window interface, after completing the running the queues, that information is retained in the logs files for this guy. And typically what we ask from you is to zip this file, just compress it and send it our way so we can take a look at it. Obviously, if we have failures, if there are options that failed, we'll know that, obviously, and then we'll help you through how to resolve these things, or at least look them up and try to fix them. Okay, the WinRU, again, it's just the command is WinRU, and hit the enter key, and it comes up, similar to what we've seen with the. And here you would see all these options, and you could search for them. Let's say delete. Oops. So delete. So you can see a little bunch of stuff. Delete all workflow processes that are not readable, invalid, and there's a delete. Delete all workflow processes that have references. So notice before we ran the detect, and if we find some of these, we can come here and run the delete as well. Invalid workflow test repairs. You need to keep up. If you have a lot of processes running in your environment, you need to keep up with those. Those slow down the Windchill environment. They occupy resources, unnecessary resources, and definitely they need to be addressed. And they'll become an issue, moving forward when you're doing upgrades to your Windchill environment. They have to be resolved, otherwise the upgrade manager will fail miserably. All right, so that's the WinRU. Now, on the topics, I have WCA next. I'll talk about vaults, and then I'll come back to WCA because it's relevant to the what we talked about a second ago. So file server administration and vault configuration. And this is depending on, this could be a complex environment here, depending on how many vaults you have, if you have replica vaults, if you have multiple master vaults. So this environment is really could get to be very complicated depending on how you deployed it. My environment's probably the simplest one. I have a force to content set up. So I have one master vault, no replica vaults, no cache, what they call it? Yeah, no cache upload vault for replica sites, because I don't have any replica sites. And what you want to come in here is really click on this and just go through the list, make sure everything is valid, make sure you have at least a couple of these read only set up to negative, meaning they'll take in data as people check in and modify files in Windchill. In here, there is the object remove unreferenced files. So it says here, move files instead of deleting. Recall when I opened up the Vault folder directory, there was this .unreferenced. So if you check this, the files are moved in there. Again, I see no point of doing this. I usually just leave it unchecked and hit the OK button, and it will go and basically get rid of those. It will, a job has been referenced now installed in background, and it'll eventually run it. It depends. These type of schedules are controlled from the Java MBean, and they have some out-of-the-box setup to them. Again, leave it to the default. It'll take care of it when it has time, maybe overnight or something like that. So there's some intelligence to these queues. I mean, Windchill obviously want to address end user request. Those would have the highest priority, and things like schedule queues for cleanup or whatnot, those are typically left to the end when there's light load on the Windchill request. All right, so that's basically the vaulting. All right, let me go back and talk about the WCA. WCA stands for Windchill Configuration Assistant. The WCA is if you open up your site XConf, and usually at the end, if it's not at the end, you need to push it at the end. So it doesn't really hurt to have it anywhere in the site, but I usually like it at the end. You need to have this this configuration property, which it says configuration reference xlink whatever, and it shows you a path under the Windchill load point to this Windchill configurator.xconf. Okay, this particular file is generated when you run the WCA, and in many cases, if you ever installed Windchill, at least from 12.0 moving forward, initially it will run and it will give you a message. It will say, hey, WCA has not been set up. And then maybe you shut it down, you launch it again, and it will run it automatically. So PTC really are pushing all customers to have this utility. It's a very, very reliable utility. What it does, it has some built-in, it's a script basically, which I'll launch it for you, show you how it works. And it has scripts that does calculations and will make recommendations to assign a specific database properties, assign free memory for your background servers, actually set up a background server, allocate memory to the method server and the background server, and potentially based on CPU availability, it will also recommend to have multiple method servers. So I'll go through that utility and show you how it works. But before I do that, let's just go to that file and open it up. I've been told to stop at 1150, so I'm going to skip this. And one more thing I want to show you is how to clean up the cache, and then we'll stop. Shut down Windchill. Many times you see errors, end user errors, and before you maybe interface error. Before you jump on, don't panic. Don't start going and opening calls and doing all sort of crazy stuff. Look, if you're a seasoned user and you know it's not a cache issue, please do so. But trust me, the first thing the PTC guy is going to ask you is to clear the cache and try to reproduce the issue. But to do so, shut down Windchill at a convenient time and go to the following location. Start with the under Windchill Tomcat and delete the instances folder. Then you go under the info engine, which is info engine complete tasks. You're going to get rid of that as well. Clear the logs file. If you go to the temp, get rid of all the temp in here. And if you have a lot of expressions under the Windchill expression. Now, again, if you don't see if you want the actual physical path to all these folders to delete their content, look up just Windchill cache in the knowledge base, and this is very well documented, and they will spit it out based on what release. Like if it's an older release, the location of these might be different. All right, just quickly, the only thing that we didn't talk about is a participant administration, how to administer that. A participant administrator is an area where you deal with users, and let me just come back here to this guy. So if I come back and we go to participant administration, depending on how you're controlling your user community, if you're connected to AD, you might want to run disconnected users. So you could come in here and say, let's see, delete from, move, search disconnected participants. And you could search, and I don't have any. You could also, if you do find some of these, you want to delete them from the Windchill database. So if once you find them, you want to delete them from Windchill. Don't attempt to delete them from Windchill and directory server. That you will get an error, because potentially your connection to your Windchill your network Active Directory is only read only. Now, if you're running the third-party Windchill directory server that comes with Windchill, at that point you have liberty to do whatever you want. You could delete, you could, why is it important to keep up with these? Again, to make sure that when you get to the point to upgrade your Windchill, these become issues if there are disconnected users or users that have been deleted and were not deleted correctly. So, yep, that's it. Hopefully, I've shared enough information with you to help you out keeping up with your Windchill.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us. I want to leave this contact information slide up here at the very end. We greatly appreciate your attendance and look forward to seeing you on future presentations.